Hey, thanks for making it to Veterans Daily with Jay and Clay and David. Hey, David, it's nice to have you
What's up,
here.
guys?
We're glad you're here because, there are some questions coming in from veterans and spouses all over the nation regarding different things coming in their mailbox, via virtually through email or their actual mailbox. And Clay and I wanted to, throw it to you since you are the expert in this VA mortgage world and get your take on a few things. Are you ready for that, David? Because we're
I'm
ready to start this.
yeah, I'm more than ready. I get solicited all the time, right? Being a veteran myself and using my VA home loan. So, a lot of people have been reaching out, watching our videos, and they're saying, "Hey, I'm getting these offers in the mail. Is this legit or not?" So, you know what? I take it upon myself to call and see if they're actually legit or not. Because guess what? If they're offering these rates, I am going to take them, even though I do this for a living. And literally every single time, guys, it's like, oh, we don't have that. And then they'll try to tell me, like, oh, where you're at right now, you're good to go. You don't need to refinance. And I'm thinking to myself, you know, there's so many of people that are just trying to push veterans to call them instead of just being upfront about the information, which ends up costing veterans a ton of money every month. And I did a video not long ago where I talked about, like, on average, there's about 25,000 VA home loans done every month. And I would say there's about $38 million in additional fees that veterans don't have to pay every month because of who they work with. Right. So that's why you definitely need to double check the statements and like the loan estimate when you get one, fee itemization if you haven't gone under contract. So you get a good idea of what fees are, because at the end of the day, average price point is about 400,000. If they're charging you an extra $8,000 in discount points and origination fees, that's money that veteran families can use to help move or do some renovations on the house. And again, we keep looking at these, and I'm like, why are you paying all this extra money? Now, obviously, it's financial, what your financial picture looks like, but just kind of getting these in the mail left and right. And I know you guys get them as well. It's kind of like, they'll be like, no out of pocket costs, no hidden fees. Like, I'm like, they're hidden fees because you didn't disclose what fees you're actually charging. Right. And then when you talk to them on the phone, you're like, holy cow, like, this is just it's just purely not worth it to do it. So definitely assess your situation and where it makes sense to be able to go into both home ownership and if you're looking to refinance, because and if you're getting hit up a lot on your phone, by the way, go to donotcall.gov so you can opt out. You'll still get some calls, and then you can also opt out to getting a ton of mailers by going out to opt out pre-screen. Let me just make sure that that's the
And
because
we'll
then
get we'll get that in the description, right, Clay?
Mhm.
Get that stuff
Yeah.
down in there. David, one of the things that one of the old adages anyway, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is, right? if
Right.
if you talk to three lenders and then all of a sudden you see something that's 3% lower than what you've been quoted, it probably doesn't exist. So I love that you said that you'll reach out, if you see different things or maybe people put stuff off to you. You actually put that foot forward and check in. Now I'd love for you to explain to people, and I'll kind of cut to it. Farm packages from title companies, how a bunch of different people that want to get your information can work with a title company, right? Get a farm package, and then that's how you get the mailers and all that type of stuff, and kind of the marketing aspects behind all of this stuff, and why we need to be careful.
Yeah, this is probably like an hour-long conversation just around this, right? So what happens with your information is a couple things. One is that when you have a credit inquiry, so you'll also notice that off the bat you're going to get like 20 phone calls while you're on the phone with the lender, because there's a couple different type of leads. So one is trigger leads, which um they're trying to reduce it so that doesn't happen, where you submit a credit inquiry and then all of a sudden your information is sold to a bunch of companies, which should be illegal because you didn't give consent to do that, especially if you're not a do not call list. So you have to be careful with that. Another way is that people will go into public records, like with a title company, to, a lot of times they'll help them. They'll farm an area to see who has VA loans, what their interest rates are, or roughly, and then they just do those blanket marketing to them. Another one that veterans get, because a buddy of mine just took a screenshot of one. He's like, "Look at this, what they're offering," and I'm like, "Man, like look at the description, the description disclaimers is going to have a ton of fees." Also, yeah, online, like if you're on social media, you'll notice if you click on any of these companies, they follow you everywhere you go for like 10 days. Or even if you mention VA loan on your phone picks it up and then it sells the information, all of a sudden you're getting hit up on ads. And one thing I always tell people is that if you think of a company because you're getting solicited, you as a veteran are paying for that advertisement. And guess what?
Mm-hmm.
I've looked into it. It is extremely expensive. So some of these big companies are spending millions of dollars a month just to market to you. And you're, basically just paying for that to be marketed to. So
You know what it reminds me of? Crazy. Whenever you have these kids, I myself was one of them. You're 18, 19, right? You're fresh off the block. You join the military. You go to that car dealership. You get a really sweet car. That's a stupid deal, right? Like stupid interest rate, 20% plus. And then you go back to base and the bricks and you're like, hey, check out my new car, guys. And everyone's making fun of you. Well, now it's that same thing, except for you're in your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, and you're buying a home and you're paying, a $3,000 fee, a $4,000 fee, a $10,000 fee simply for their ad market revenue. They have to recoup that, right? I won't name names, but if businesses, I'll tell you as a business, if you're spending millions of dollars in marketing, it's worth it, right? You're not going to be putting that money in marketing for no reason. So you're going to recoup that and some. And it's the adult version of the 20%, APR on a Dodge Challenger or a Charger.
Yeah. And again, I think a lot of times it's either people don't have the financial with understanding when they go through it to read it. And a lot of times people just get pushed through the system. And they think that the VA is the one that's soliciting them. Like that is a common thing that people say, like, well, the VA reached out to me and let me know that I could refinance my house, or the VA reached out to me and let me use my VA home loan. That's the thing. The VA is not doing that, right? It's individual companies that negotiate it. And I'll actually be doing a history of the VA home loan because at one point, I forget if it was like 80s or 90s, the secretary had the option of setting interest rates or having it being negotiated between lenders and consumers. And they went that route because it opened up the market significantly for veterans instead of the VA setting what the rates are. So VA does not set rates. I know we talked about this heavily back when we did our video with the Fed funds drop rate. But yeah, just be aware that it's the VA does not set the rate. They just basically set the VA handbook and then lenders base it off of that, right? All the information, how to process it. But again, you really want to be able to be financially sound within yourself, right? Budgeting, understanding your credit. So then you're not putting yourself in a position where you can't afford to pay the payments and you go into foreclosure. And a lot of times lenders will try to max you out and then you don't know your budget. VA loan is very loose. Like you can qualify with a 75% debt to income ratio. Okay. That's not a good position to be in. But and you still have other bills to pay. So keep that in mind when you're going on this journey.
So I have a little bit of rain going on in the background. So sorry for the white noise, but I did have a question for you.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna get to the question, but I also wanted to throw out that also when consumers, right, veteran consumers are online, like you had said, they may be searching, check your interest rate here, right? And you start plugging in your information and it's the whole, and we all know it, what's the value of your home? How much do you owe? What's your credit score? Your name, your address, your phone number, your email address. You're going to get your rate. Come on, keep feeding me information.
Yep.
All that is that's just a tool to gather your information and then sell it off to a bunch of different lenders as leads because they're assuming that you want to potentially refinance, purchase a home, whatever. And now you're going to get those, however many phone calls, right? So be
Hundreds.
aware. I would say, David, and I'm sure you're going to agree, your best bet is to reach out to a known commodity, a known person, somebody like you who's trusted in the industry directly, instead of just throwing your darts blindly, right? You're
Right.
gonna be a straight shooter. You're gonna explain to them your information's gonna be in here, and by no means, just because you have a conversation to get information, are you obligated to close a loan? There's just,
No.
that's absolutely not going to happen. So feel free. Now, my question to you, David, is what can people do if they're feeling like they may have gotten, we'll call it scammed? Is there any sort of recourse that if they're getting down some sort of a weird path and they're really feeling iffy or feeling like there was a bait and switch happening, is there anybody they can complain to, or is it just don't sign anything and move on?
Yeah, so it's going to really depend on the institution, right? Because if it's a bank, you can contact the FDIC, file a complaint. If it's like a mortgage broker, then you go through like their local authority in order to file a complaint. Now, good point. If you're getting their spidey senses are coming off, right? You've watched these videos, you're like, wait a second, maybe I should just at least reach out to get a consultation, which, like you mentioned, there's no obligation. At least we can review what you have. And if it makes sense and you're at the end, guess what? Charlie Mike, just finish it up and then you'll be good to go. But there is no obligation with a lender until you have actually funded your loan. You can cancel it. Okay. So there's a couple parts. So from pre-approval to application doesn't make a difference, right? You can switch, get as many credit inquiries as you want, or within a 45-day window, it counts as one. Hey, you go under contract to close. You got to be careful. You can still shop around. You can switch lenders. Not an issue. A new lender needs a minimum of 7 days to close on a transaction by law. Okay. But in a refinance, it's a little bit different because there's what's called a 3-day right of rescission. So if we close on a Monday, they have to give you 3 business days to think about it, confirm you want it, and you can cancel it by midnight of the 3rd day. Right. So double check what you've signed. Because again, a lot of people have been submitting their loan estimates to me or closing disclosures. And I'm just like, wait a second, you can save a ton of money by either switching, and then we can make it happen. But yeah, good point on that.
Now, on the flip side, and just to play devil's advocate here, not every single lender offers the same exact mirrored image VA loan, right?
Right.
Dollar for dollar costs, loan to values, credit score requirements that are internal within their underwriting. Some lenders, like you had mentioned, are brokers, and they might work with us several different wholesale lenders, while others are banks that are focused on, let's just make this the best we can make it from a bank perspective and be the most competitive that we can be, controlling and underwriting potentially in-house.
Right.
If you keep the servicing, if you sell the loan, obviously, then you got to worry about other things. But talk a little bit about maybe some circumstances in which lender A might be a better option than, or be the only option versus a lender B that both offer VA loans. If you get what I'm saying. Okay.
No, I do. And there's a lot that goes behind that because it depends on how a lending institution lends its money or has investor money, right? Because there's all types of different structures that exist, both from brokerage to banks to hybrids where they can work with other wholesalers, right? So the VA loan itself is extremely loose, right? If you read the handbook and its circulars, they don't even have a minimum credit score requirement, which lenders do have that, right? And I think some people have been commenting like, if you have a certain credit score below, don't even bother to try to use your VA loan. And that's the one thing is do not disqualify yourself. And at least if you reach out to me, I could walk you through that path to be like, yes, that's something we can't do, which it would be that'd be rare because we kind of do look at the VA handbook and we go based on what they have to be able to give you those options. And so you can go to one institution and be denied, and they'll tell you, oh, that's something you can't do, but another lending institution will be able to do it. So that's why you can just give me a call. I mean, I got a call off a call right before this phone call. He watches both of you guys, and he's like, I didn't even realize that you can do a construction loan because it wasn't available during the time I was purchasing. which was incorrect because you could have been doing it for a long time. It's because lenders tell you can't do something, right? If it falls within the VA handbook, okay, understandable. There's waiting periods for that. That you have to go through it. And also, you probably want to work with someone that's going to tell you the truth. Like, I'll give you a good example. A gentleman reached out, watched our video last week, and he was wanting to use his VA loan to purchase a property. But after we went through this scenario, it actually made sense for him just to buy the house cash, not use a VA loan, right? On a fixed income with disability, basically qualified property tax exemption, was able to purchase it in cash. That's financial freedom. And
Yeah, it
Clay,
really
he
is.
mentioned you because you're always talking about how to put yourself in the best financial piece. And so, again, that's when we talk to people, it's how do we get you the information you need? And then guess what? If it doesn't make sense, don't do it, or we'll give you someone else to work with. Right.
Man, imagine being able just to walk up and be like, hey, I want that house. Bam. That's it.
Yeah.
That's
But
it.
a lot of
And you
people
have the property tax exemption, right? That's
Right.
true home ownership. What I would call the American dream, to be honest with you.
Yeah, Clay, I agree. Financial freedom is obviously the end goal, right? For all of us. And the sooner that we can get there, the better. I believe that there's two ways to retire, right? One is to save up just a ton of money so you can actually retire and pay off all your bills, right? Or you just don't. That's your two ways, right? So, you really need to, unless you come from a family with just a ton of money, you need to lower the amount of debt that you have so you can live on whatever you have saved up and other things. When it comes to the whole VA loan piece, I love that you said don't disqualify yourself earlier, because that is something that Clay and I often talk about when it comes to VA benefits. And my kind of thought here, Dave, is what are your thoughts on people just getting a pulse on what they're even, I mean, this is a world that's new to a lot of people, right? First time home buyer situation, which this is a fantastic loan, a fantastic benefit for that first time home buyer or not. But really, I love the idea of being able to use this loan as a first time home buyer tool. Absolutely. But a lot of people don't know what they even qualify for. They think that they need to save up a ton of money. So they hold off on reaching out to a professional because, again, they're disqualifying themselves today because they think they need to do X, Y, and Z. What's your suggestion to that group of people?
Well, a couple things on that, because it's like 30 to 40% of people disqualified themselves. 13% of veterans have used the VA loan, but there's over 24 million VA loans used. So some portion of the veteran group figured out how they could have multiple VA home loans, right? So kind of you think about that, they've leveraged it. And I've met people that have 4 VA home loans currently, right? Because they were able to keep purchasing properties. So I'll tell you this, and we actually should do a whole video on understanding credit and budgeting together to kind of walk people through, because the first thing you would really need to understand is your spending, your budget, because a lot of people, ironically, can buy a home, but they don't, they overspend, right? They spend too much money on things they really don't need. Right? They don't provide that financial freedom to themselves. That's number one. 2, reaching out to me, at least I could walk you through it, because no matter what stage in life you're in, right? At some point, you're going to want to take a look at home ownership, right? Maybe you may not be able to do it today, and that's okay. One thing that people say is, I'm scared for you to look at my situation because I don't want to be told no. But being told no sets you free, because you know what you need to do next in order to get to a yes. Okay. It's like same thing with VA disability. If you go through the process, they deny you and figure out what needs to happen. Go back to the doctor. It's the same thing here. Most of the time it's credit and income, right? Credit, that's not rocket science. Time and money can fix all of it. Income, you have a lot of benefits from the VA. There's a lot of times veterans have the opportunity to either get disability increases or be able to get better employment opportunities. So All that is just with time and
Yeah.
money.
You know, and one of the things that popped in my mind as we were going there, David, is if you, a veteran out there, has been working with a lender somewhere, and that lender tells you, no, we can't really do a VA loan because of, and they just kind of say something, but it doesn't really make sense, and they don't dive into it, and they really steer you away from it. It might be because they have no clue how to even do a VA loan. Believe me, there's lenders out there, and you alluded to it earlier, David, when you said that you know the the person that was starting with a VA loan, they're like, yeah, you don't qualify for that, or that doesn't exist, but really it did, right? Maybe it was the construction loan, but I don't know how to do that as a lender, so I'm going to say that doesn't exist, and you don't qualify for that. So let's move over here. This one's better for you. If you're not getting a solid answer and you're feeling like that's like you're kind of being, I guess, a bait and switch, so to speak, probably reach out to somebody else and make sure that what they're saying is true. And David's phone is always open to you, email, whatever, reach out and run that situation past him to get a second set of eyes. And look, at the end of the day, he's either going to say, yeah, that's great. You're already in process. You're closing next week. Move forward. You're looking good. Or, hey, I got a much better option for you, and we can close it quick if you can get an extension or whatever. And here's what we could potentially do. So I want to throw it back to you, David, for any last words before we wrap up. And Clay, I'm going to let you wrap it up because you do it so good, and now you even get a little bit of time to think about how you want to do it.
Nice. Thinking is good.
Yeah. So I'll leave you guys with this on Jason, what you said, because a lot of veterans get steered away from their benefits because people don't know what they're doing, or they maybe make more money in a different product steering. It's something it's just, you got to look at the best option for you. V loan, phenomenal product, but is it always the best? Sometimes, maybe not, right? Especially in Texas, if you're doing a cash out refi, surprisingly, you can't use your VA loan to do it. I'm going to do a whole video on that, but that's kind of insane. So it's also state dependent. But I'll leave you guys with that. Definitely reach out, and at least we'll look at it. And I'll tell you my honest opinion. Like, yeah, you're good to go. Or, hey, no, we could do better. Or if you're like running into a last minute issue, at least I'll walk you through it to be like, oh, this is what the lender needs to do. And then you're going to close and you'll be happy. Because that just happened from someone watching one of our videos. They were just like, this is what happened. I walked them through it and they closed a couple of days later because of it. So always at least happy to help the veteran community get to where you need to be and be happy, because it is stressful.
Yeah. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and close it. And as Yoda would say, right? Helping we're not, wrong something went. That was solid. That was so solid. Okay.